this siding is probably original. Some of it's been replaced. This is original. This is all original.
Yeah.
You know, the windows. A lot of the houses here, I call it Dennisville trim. It's colonial stop added to flat stop. It makes what we modern guys call brick molding.
Okay.
But it's separate trim.
Right.
And I know why they did it. Besides dressing the walls up, a lot of time the thick clapboard sticks out past the, you'll see on the casings where they didn't add it, it sticks out past the corner boards.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
And so by adding this trim, it covered the ends of the siding. So it's a multi-purpose thing. Just like we call this a drip edge for water, and
Right.
I don't believe it for a minute. It's a decorative thing.
I love I think the lights over the door
Aren't they wonderful?
Because it's sort of the foam fan light effect. I mean, it gives you the light in the hall, but it's not quite as refined, but it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last use this building was put to before we got it in the 70s, it was being used to store used auto parts.
A Wawa stands
Yep.
where this
That's a
used
Wawa.
to be.
Is that the fork in the road?
Yes.
Yeah, Dennisville.
Mhm.
Okay.
Huh. Yep.
The Gratz family
Yeah, you would
owned
know
that
this.
yard across the road. They were the last owners. This building had actually been condemned by the Dennis Township Health Department. It was going to be torn down. But the final owners knew it had some historic value, so they gave it to us. And then the top half was taken off this floor.
Right.
The two halves brought here by truck and then reassembled and restored. So
Very cool.
it was the center of its community in its time. And from the 1847 to the 1870s, it was called the Wells Hotel, after its owner, Jacob Martin Wells.
Okay.
And there was even a recruiting office in here during the Civil War. So this thing saw quite a bit of action in its day.
I like the painting. Was there overmantel painting and stuff like
I
that?
don't
Do you know?
think so. I think this was just something Annie wanted to do once it got here, kind of the Rufus Porter tradition.
This was done in 1991 by a former
Nice.
employee of the village who is an artist. And it was done in expectation of the 300th anniversary of Cape May County in 1992. So it just depicts different scenes from local history.
Right.
If they build another half, it has another front and a back door.
Even the lean-tos.
Yeah, most of the time they're lined up, but sometimes they're all set a few feet, but not by much. And if you have a front door and a solid back wall, you open it up and we can pretty much guarantee you there's a door there.
Right.
A door opening, a frame, you know.
My history on this building. This also came from Upper Township.
Little jewel.
Little gem of a building. I believe it dates to about 1840, I think might be the date I have on this, 1840 or 50. This is its third known location.
Okay.
Like many of the buildings, it had been moved earlier and then came to here. First used as a store, and we actually have the inventory from the first store owner when he
Really?
died. Yeah, and it was really cool to see what he owned. And then later was a bank. You can see the grills on the front doors.
Yeah, the columns are great, but I love it. I mean, everything in a sense is sort of, it's folksy, but it's awesome because they're sort of following these trends, right? It's sort of
Exactly.
Greek revival, classical revival.
Yeah.
But they're doing it in their own way.
And it was in a little shipbuilding town up on the Tuckahoe River that was really bustling at that point in time. And you know, the windows, everything to me. I just love this building. I just love it. Yeah. And we
One of
only
the more
have a couple
interesting
stores
uses in the
left down here.
1940s, Upper Township used this as part of their town hall complex.
town hall.
They apparently held meetings in
what?
here.
Oh, see, we
Now,
never
how would
noticed
this
that.
be, if we were to take down the plaster, how would this be framed? Is this just sort of typical
It's 1840.
studs
Probably
and-
late timber frame.
Yeah, 1840, they're still doing, here's what the sequence. You have, up until 1820, you have corner posts that are sizable enough to protrude into the room.
Right.
You have even more often than not plates and girts that protrude into the room. They just, and when they're plastering, they just plaster around them and they wrap the timbers with beaded softwood. Around my take, around 1830s, 1840s, the housewives don't want to look at timbers in the room anymore. So
That's right.
they lighten up the frame. My house is built, my 1849 house has watermill sawed and resawed with a circular saw studs, mortise and tenon, all the studs, no nails, braces, mortise and tenon, but the corner posts are 4x8s. would fit inside a 4-inch wall.
Right.
Instead of an 8x8, you have a 4x8. Your plates are 4 by whatever, and so it all fits. And we know they wanted that because a lot of our first period houses, second period houses, Victorian carpenters chopped the corners. They chopped decorated gunstock posts out to get the plaster into a straight corner. Almost all of our houses are on, even up to Victorian days, they built houses in Cape May on brick piers. They didn't bother with solid foundations. Throughout the countryside here, you see houses they were on brick piers, and later they're filled in with brick between them.
Okay.
That being said, all of the early houses we've seen with foundations intact or with new brick ones, they always have stone. We find stone underneath them, and the stone is always that red sandstone. Okay, I get 200-year-old cut stones from old buildings in Pennsylvania. It occurs in Berks and Lancaster County.
Right.
My ancestors weren't going to Berks and Lancaster County to get stone. I've never found it in Long Island. Staten Island has soapstone, but I've never seen this redstone, but it may be there. Some of our families came from Monmouth on their way here, from Long Island to Monmouth to here.
Right.
Spicer, Leonard's,
Right.
And so I believe that they're either bringing it from Monmouth County on their boats,
Right.
or they're or somewhere else in New England or Long Island.
Well, I love that. I mean, I think if you're coming from Monmouth County, it's iron rich. It could be sandstone.
it's
I mean,
red,
you've got
yeah.
the falls, right, in Tinton Falls.
They went out of the way to bring them down here.
Do you ever get reference to a house that's set on posts into the ground or on sill right on the ground?
I've seen Victorian houses. We have eastern red cedar. It's one of the most common trees here.
Right.
They get huge size. I just did a display in a new exhibit in our county museum where I have early redstone tombstones, marble tombstones from Philadelphia, and heart red cedar grave markers. And I've seen Victorian houses on red cedar posts. The heartwood will last indefinitely.
Huh.
I mean, 100 years.
Right.
I have pieces that have been in the ground for 100 years, and they're like new almost. But I've never seen a house with that on it, but it doesn't mean they weren't.
Right.
It's just they don't exist.